Europe, all of Europe, was represented by a Scottish engineer, Montgomery Scott, played by another Canadian, Jimmy Doohan from Vancouver, British Columbia. Jimmy was a real down-to-earth, great guy, wonderful friend, a dear friend, and he became my favorite drinking buddy. I learned a lot about libations from Jimmy. But he told me something else. He said, I've become famous all over the world playing a Scotsman, but I'm actually an Irish Canadian. I'm of Irish ancestry. But, he emphasized to me, I've drunk enough of the libation of Scotland to qualify playing a Scotsman. And I was witness to that. He qualified. He loved his Scotch. So Europe was represented by the Scottish character. Africa was represented by an African woman, an African American. Well, actually, the character was called Nyota Uhura, played by an African American from Robbins, Illinois, south of Chicago. Nichelle Nichols really personified diversity because she was not only African American, but she had French ancestry and Cherokee ancestry. So Nichelle was probably the most American of all of us. That vast area of this planet called Asia was represented by me from Los Angeles, California. But it wasn't just racial or cultural diversity that you saw on the Enterprise, because we had a character named Pavel Chekhov, represented Russia. And if you remember, back then in the 60s, or some of you weren't around there to remember, but you've learned about it, we had what was called the Cold War. It was at the coldest point of the Cold War. Two great forces, the Soviet Union and the West, glaring at each other, threatening each other with mutual nuclear annihilation. And at a time like that, we had a trusted member of our crew who was proud of his Russian heritage, spoke with a Russian accent, which was kind of an anachronism in the 23rd century. But Gene Roddenberry wanted to make that commentary too. What seemed like an absolutely insolvable conflict could also be overcome to that point in the 23rd century when we have a Russian working together with all the rest of us. And to really underscore diversity, we had a first officer named Spock. He had pointy ears and green blood. He was bi-species, not biracial, but bi-species. His mother was an Earth woman, and his father was from the planet Vulcan. And they were keenly intelligent, very strong, physically strong, but they were also totally devoid of humor. Couldn't enjoy a joke at all. But that was that unique combination. And so Gene Roddenberry was saying we're going to be coming to a time when we might even have amongst us species that are not quite like us, green blood, pointy-eared. But we have to have an open mind because we have some commonality with each of us. And so it made all of the tensions in our society of that time and today seem ridiculous. And what really seems ridiculous today now is some of our politicians who make great big issues where they really shouldn't be issues, like North Carolina, where now the great battleground is, of all places, the bathroom. You've read about it. they don't want people who identify with a gender that's opposite them to use the toilet of their identification. And they say that that's going to bring a situation about where pedophiles can be in the little girl's room. When the journalists challenge them, well, has there ever been such a problem? They'll say, no, well, I'll look into it. There's never been such a problem as pedophiles going to ladies' room. It's really laughable. And that, unfortunately, that has to go through the courts, and it's going to take some time, but that too will eventually be resolved. We have to learn to respect each other because we as human beings are very diverse within ourselves. I married my husband, another man, just 8 years ago. At that time, the big issue was the fact that we were two men, and I was barely conscious of the fact that Brad is white and I'm Asian. Back in 1947, when my aunt fell in love with a man, opposite sex, but he happened to be white and a Canadian to boot. And that was a big issue. But now, when Brad and I, two men, got married, we were barely conscious of the fact that we were two different races. He was white and I was Asian. But, you know, we make progress like that. And before too long, these crazy politicians who make issues out of bathrooms, they're going to be a little footnote in history, and world will go on. Star Trek blazed a trail for this kind of open-minded approach to our future, where we can have bi-species people as a leader of our team, like Spock was, and he was an intelligent and keenly analytical leader. And so with that preface, let's begin our conversation. Your thoughts, your opinions, your criticisms, or your wonderful praise for Star Trek. I see you highlighted it here. Is that where the mic is? Yes. Okay, great. Let's begin. You're on.
What was your favorite episode in Star Trek?
Well, my favorite episode from the TV series is Naked Time, where I got freed from that damn console, whipped my shirt off, got my fencing foil, and terrorized the whole Enterprise. And my favorite movie is the best movie of them all, Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country. Yes. We have people that agree with me there. That is a Captain Sulu movie, isn't it? How drama is defined as beginning, middle, and end. Now, how does it begin? There's a brand new starship, the Excelsior, bigger than the Enterprise, more powerful than the Enterprise. And seated in that center chair on the bridge is a brand new captain, Captain Sulu, confidently sipping his cup of green tea. But only after one sip, all hell breaks loose. Praxis explodes, and the waves come all the way across, and Captain Sulu has to call for shields, 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 and then the pounding drama begins. And at the crux, the climax, when the aging Captain Kirk is about to be blown away to smithereens by the Klingons, out of the darkened galaxy sky comes Captain Sulu to the rescue. And he says, target that explosion and fire, and blows the Klingon captain to smithereens, thus saving the day for Captain Kirk and the Enterprise. And then the classic ending, the ending of all good Star Treks, on the bridge of the Enterprise, and with Captain Kirk there in the center chair. He looks up at the view screen, sees the giant image of Captain Sulu. And he stands up and essentially says, "Thank you for saving my ass." And Captain Sulu looks down and says, "Good to see you in action one more time, Captain." And he roars off. And there's an absolute awestruck McCoy looking at that view screen, and he says, "By God, that's a big ship." But Scotty, with a twinkle in his eye, says, "Aye, but not so big as her captain, I think." Now that's a Captain Sulu movie.
Thank you.
That's my favorite movie.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming to Kansas City. I got
Having a
question
great time, having a delicious time.
You eat barbecue?
You have great restaurants here.
Yes, they do.
Friday night we went to Country Club Plaza, where apparently here in Kansas City you have 21 seasons. 21 seasons. We normally have 4. I don't know what it's like living here in Kansas City with 21 seasons to adjust to, but it was delicious there. And last night we went to a place that was recommended to us called Drunken Fish. Oh, we have Drunken Fish fans. I thought Missouri was a landlocked state. No ocean here. Do you have any big lakes nearby? Oh, you do? Well, there must be something intoxicating in that lake. Drunken fish, but they were delicious. And so tonight, we haven't decided where we're going to go, but we have a great big banquet table of Kansas City restaurants before us.
My question is going to be a Gene Roddenberry Star Trek question. LeVar Burton 2 years ago was saying that he was not exactly happy with the movies as they are because he thinks his vision is gone, has left it. It's more of an action movie. My question is, you were talking about the characters. Which one do you think is more important for Gene Roddenberry's vision or Gene Roddenberry's characters to carry on?
Well, you referred to LeVar Burton. He's absolutely correct. With Star Trek The Next Generation, Gene Roddenberry had to play a smaller and smaller role. And by the time we had the movies going, it was mostly in the hands of Harv Bennett. And Harv Bennett is a great sci-fi storyteller, great big action-adventure producer. But we started losing some of the additional dimension. We still had that dimension of commentary on social issues. Star Trek IV was about our environmental chain, the linkage that we all have. It's essentially a Save the Whales theme. And with Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, the explosion of Praxis was a metaphor for what happened in Chernobyl when they had that nuclear breakdown. And the Klingon chieftain who comes to make peace with Starfleet was essentially Khrushchev, not Khrushchev, Gorbachev coming to build some rapprochement with the West. So we still had that element there. But I think with the rebooted Star Trek movies under J.J. Abrams, he's a great action-adventure space opera producer. But that's what it is. You can't look beyond that because there's nothing there. A commentary on our society. And we have a society where there are a lot of topics that could be commented on. Terrorism, for one, and global warming, climate change, for another. All these issues, but it's just space opera. So in that respect, LeVar is very correct. We're losing that dimension. I'm curious to see what the movie that's going to be released this summer is going to be like, because that same criticism was applied to both the first and second rebooted films. And I love the cast. I work with Zach Quinto on Heroes. He's a very, very fine actor. Gives a lot of thought and analysis. And what he's created with the new Spock, I think, is a wonderful, wonderful job. And Carl Urban as Doc McCoy.
My favorite.
He is uncanny. I mean, yeah, give Carl Urban an applause. He's captured DeForest Kelley's movements and his rhythm and his speech pattern. He's a very gifted guy. I saw him last weekend in Bonn, Germany, where we had a convention celebrating Star Trek's 50th anniversary. But there were wonderful actors there. Chris Pine is a dashing Captain Kirk. Certainly, I wouldn't want to see Bill Shatner running down the corridors today. Not a pretty sight at all. So I love the cast, but I hope that the criticism that have been going to JJ about lacking that depth is there in the third one. I am keeping my fingers crossed, looking forward to it.
Will you be in one of them anytime soon? The
I
TV
would
show
be
or-
more than happy to be. All they have to do is invite me.
We invite you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Did you take up fencing before or after the naked time?
Before. When I was a kid, my parents took me to see Errol Flynn as Robin Hood, Adventures of Robin Hood, and I was swept away by that. And when I came home, I had my mother make me a Robin Hood costume, and also I had her make other costumes, Robin Hood period costumes. My backyard became Sherwood Forest. Martha Gonzalez, our neighbor's girl, became Maid Marian, and skinny, tall, blonde Gary McGarry was my Friar Tuck. He was totally the opposite type, but it was my backyard, and my mother made the costume, so I got to cast. And so we were the merry men in my backyard, and I was sword fighting there. But about a month before we shot that episode of Naked Time, the writer, John D.F. Black, happened to be on the set. And he said, George, we're developing a script where this disease that one gets from the palm of your hand breaks down whatever inhibitions people have. And we get to act out whatever we really want to be. And I was thinking of Sulu becoming a samurai warrior, brandishing a samurai sword. And I said, well, that's ethnically consistent because I'm of Japanese ancestry. But when I was a kid, I didn't play samurai. And I told him, what about putting a fencing foil in his hands? That's very science fiction. And he said, oh, yeah, that's a thought. Do you fence? I said, it's my favorite sport. The only experience I had before doing that episode was my play acting as a kid, as Robin Hood. But that Saturday afternoon, I decided I better get some technical training. Back then, we had this thick book called the Yellow Pages. A lot of you remember that. Yes, wasn't it wonderful? I was looking up fencing lessons, and I found right not too far from where I lived, on Sunset Boulevard, there was a studio called Falcon Studios. And so I went there, signed up, and took my first formal fencing lesson. It was my teacher was a man named Mr. Faulkner. And it turned out he was the man who choreographed all of the fencing sequences in The Adventures of Robin Hood. What a treat, you know. I was seeing Mr. Faulkner's. In fact, Mr. Faulkner doubled for Basil Rathbone because I think all the people are dead now, so I can tell you. Mr. Faulkner told me that Errol Flynn was terrified of sword fighting with Basil Rathbone because he was so uncontrolled. And so for the close-ups, Mr. Faulkner did Basil Rathbone's fencing. And it was only his back that I was watching on screen. And so, you know, as a child, I was transported by watching Mr. Faulkner's back. And here he was teaching me how to fence. So that was another gift from Star Trek, to be able to connect with a man that had created something that impressed me so much as a child. So I did know fencing before I did Naked Time.
Hello. What is one of your favorite memories working with the late Leonard Nimoy?
Oh, there are so many. Leonard was, I think I'm safe in using the word extraordinary human being. He was, number one, he was a very creative, original actor. He was very inventive, and he used a lot of things from his own life in creating Spock. For example, the Spock pinch. That's Leonard Nimoy's creation, because in one of the early scripts, the writers had Mr. Spock punching out an adversary. And while rehearsing that scene on the set, Leonard said, "No, no, no, this is illogical." Spock is a supremely rational person. Why would he spend all that energy and all that effort and all that destruction, you know, crushing, tearing skin and crushing bones and doing all that damage when it can be done much more efficiently and much more effectively? Vulcans have great strength, and humans have this vulnerability of the spinal cord. The cord that connects our brain to our bodies. With his great strength, all he has to do is go for that vital nerve and pinch it. No damage, no tearing of skin and breaking of bones, and the adversary is incapacitated. Plus, he told the director, we don't have to rehearse all this choreography, you know. So from a filmmaking standpoint, it's very efficient. And the director said, that's genius, that's fantastic. And that's how the Spock pinch was born. We also use this, you know, the Vulcan greeting. That too, Leonard suggested on the set. This is apparently part of a Jewish ritual. And he said, when the Vulcans are coming together and greet each other, why not use this symbol rather than just a handshake, which is so earth-centered? And the director said, yeah, let's do that. That's very exotic. And so that's how the Vulcan greeting started. So Leonard was a very inventive actor. But beyond that, he had very much a lot of the qualities of a Spock. He was a very thoughtful guy. He thought on things a lot. And I enjoyed having set-side conversations in between setups with him because I'm a political animal as he was a political animal. And we loved talking about politics and the candidates and the issues on the set. And sometimes, Leonard was backing a candidate for a political office that I didn't know, and he would invite his friends over, political friends over, and the candidate would talk to us. And I would do the same thing if I were supporting some candidate and I'm trying to organize a fundraiser. Leonard helped me out, Nichelle helped me out, Walter helped me out, and so we were politically kindred spirits as well. And so I really enjoyed working with Leonard Nimoy.
Thank you.
Hi. Over the last few years, you've amassed a huge following on social media, partially because you're hilarious, but also because you speak out politically very often. And I was wondering that if you thought celebrities have a responsibility to be voices for positive social change, or if that's just something that you do.
Well, I think we're all individuals. We have different qualities. But I think the amplification of our voices is a gift that you all, the fans, have given us. If Star Trek hadn't become such an enormously popular show, and if the fans hadn't given us so much support, we would not have the kind of access to microphones or news cameras or radio mics or print press people that we do have. So you have given us this gift of having amplified and magnified our voices. And together with that comes responsibility, I feel. I mean, I take that as a gift that comes with responsibility. And so I try to use it as I interpret my responsibility, and that's to try to make the world we live in a little bit better. And it's based on my childhood experience when the United States was swept up by war hysteria and prejudice. We're Americans. My grandparents came from Japan, and my mother was born in Sacramento, California. My father was a San Franciscan. They met in Los Angeles and married and had my siblings and me. We're Americans. 3 generations of us. And yet, simply because we happen to look like the people that bombed Pearl Harbor, they put us in these barbed wire prison camps with no charges, with no trial. The central pillar of our justice system is due process. You got to be charged for a crime, and then you can challenge those charges in a court of law with a trial. And then if you're found guilty, you're put in prison camps or jailed. In our case, 120,000 Japanese Americans on the West Coast were summarily rounded up with no charges, except for this, our Japanese faces. I was 5 years old at that time, but I remember that absolutely unforgettably terrifying morning when my parents got us up, the kids, early one morning about 4 o'clock, and dressed us hurriedly, and they were packing in the bedroom. My brother and I were told to wait in the living room, and we were gazing out the front window, and we saw 2 soldiers with bayonets on their rifle, marching up the driveway, stomped up the front porch, banged on the door with their fists. I mean, that bang, I still remember. It was really scary. My father answered it, and literally at gunpoint, we were ordered out of our home on Garnet Street in Los Angeles, California, in the United States of America. It was chilling. My father gave my brother and me little packages to carry, and we went out onto the driveway, and we waited for my mother to come out. And when she came out, she had our baby sister, not even a year old yet, I think about 8 or 9 months old, in one arm, and a duffel bag in the other, and tears were streaming down her cheeks. That is a memory that I can never erase from my mind. Something like that can happen in the United States. And because of that, that shaped who I am. My father said, in our democracy, you've got to actively engage in the process of democracy. And one afternoon, Sunday afternoon, he took me down to the Adlai Stevenson for President headquarters in downtown Los Angeles. And for the first time there, as volunteers in that campaign headquarters, I understood what makes our democracy work. I was there with all these other passionate people, inspired by Governor Stevenson of Illinois. He was a great governor, and he was an eloquent speaker. And we were all working to get him elected president. When he didn't win, my father said, in a democracy, you don't give up. You keep on keeping on. And so that I was shaped into this political activist that I am by that childhood experience. And I think Leonard, in many ways, was shaped by his childhood experience and the knowledge of what was happening to his people in Europe. We want to make America better than that kind of country. And when I heard Donald Trump make that sweeping, hysterical statement that all Muslims have to be banned because they're terrorists, I was chilled by that. It's happening again. Because yes, the terrorists were Muslims, but Muslims, the millions and millions of Muslims throughout the world, are not terrorists. The terrorists are a small fraction. Thank you, thank you. We Americans are better than that. And I am dedicated to making sure that Donald Trump never becomes the President of the United States. Well, thank you for that. I'm among kindred spirits here. Who's next?
I am told our time is up.
Oh, our time is up. Well, it was great chatting with you. I'll be signing again right here or wherever they take me. And may you all live long and prosper.